Even if the jet fuel and diesel fuel had created the glowing molten lava that flowed down the sides of the buildings, something else caused underground fires to remain until December 20th, which was over 3 months later. Also, there is still no explanation for the cars that were parked 3/4 of a mile away from the World Trade Center that spontaneously combusted during the attack. Additionally, there were cars parked in closer proximity that were completely destroyed, but those that had spots of thick car wax over the paint were spared in those specific spots. Somehow the wax prevented damage to the paint and aluminum underneath. There was a hurricane off of the East Coast that day. Hurricane Erin, an F3, had traveled across the Atlantic Ocean for 7 days, and it was headed straight for Maine. However, on September 11th, sometime after 9 a.m., the hurricane abruptly turned around as if it were headed east for Europe. And then on September 13th, it turned back towards the US and ran parallel to the Canadian coast. To watch the clip, copy the URL that I've provided. The reason why Hurricane Erin is important is because there is a conspiracy theory that it was man-made, and that's actually possible. There is technology called HAARP, which stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It's when scientists mess around with the ionosphere beyond the Earth's atmosphere in order to change the weather. There is a conspiracy theory that Hurricane Erin was man-made, and it was created for the purpose of whisking away the air pollution that would be created by the explosion at the World Trade Center towers. There is a physical science theory called torsion field, which research labs in the USSR, now Russia, had investigated because if it exists, then it could be used to create weapons of mass destruction that are more powerful than nuclear weapons. During the 1990s, the research program for torsion field moved to a university in Thailand. Everyone who tested ground zero for radiation said that there weren't any problematic readings. For example, Richard Borey, a radiation specialist, arrived at the World Trade Center as the second building exploded, and he tested the dust on people with a device called a portable liquid scintillation counter, which is more precise than a Geiger counter. He didn't find anything. There was a pharmacy laboratory in one of the buildings that emitted radiation, which was discovered much later during the last days of the Ground Zero cleanup. With that said, thermite and torsion field do not cause radiation, and so if it was one of those two, then radiation detectors wouldn't have found it. Many key witnesses were murdered during the investigation. The murders were disguised as suicides and heart attacks. To watch the clip, copy the link that I've provided. One of them was Barry Jennings. A witness at the 9/11 WTC scene said that there was a small black jet fighter flying beneath one of the jumbo commercial passenger planes that crashed into a tower, and he was murdered. Later, others said that something black, an unknown object, was attached to the bottom of the jet. The story kept growing. Someone crushed Bertha Champagne to death with her own car at Marvin Bush's house. He is President George Bush's younger brother, and he was the director of Securicom until June 2000. Securicom provided electronic security to the World Trade Center until the day of the attack. At the time of the attack, he was on the board of the HCC Insurance Holdings, which insured parts of it. Bertha Champagne worked for him in his house as his children's babysitter. The same video also mentions that on the morning of the attack, our former CIA director Porter Goss was visiting Pakistan's Mahmud Ahmed, who had wired $100,000 to alleged lead hijacker Mohammed Atta.